Oops. Auto start is disabled. Oh, okay, hold on.
Oh, okay.
Go live. That's new. Okay, I think we're good.
Do we have video?
We should, yeah, we did. We did at the end last week. Soren came to check today anyway, but yes.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, he texted me and said that everything was good to go.
Good.
The only thing I'm trying.
Like I said, I'm gonna get with him next week and,
Let me know when.
yeah,
Most of the
we'll,
week off.
cause I need to know specifically how to do it just in case.
Tomorrow for zoning, I cannot be here, but I will leave instructions for Paul Rich. I didn't know if anyone else was able to be here for that.
We'll let Paul know, sometimes he records them, sometimes he doesn't, you can always have the police record.
So there's two of these that say live now, and I'm not sure why, because they were two separate meetings, but I guess we'll see. It should be rec committee that's live, but the council one's saying it's live. I'm just trying to get to the chat feature. You guys can start talking. We're live. Go ahead.
Okay.
Take it.
I'd like to call to order the Recreation and Community Life meeting on Tuesday, November 16th at 5:30 p.m. In attendance, Councilman Brian Spitzenagel, our fiscal officer, Angela LeVay, Councilwoman Mary Miller, Mary.
Mary's
Miller
fine.
Miller. Yeah.
Mary's
Mr.
fine.
Allen, and our mayor, and we have 3 guests, residents. I see everyone has committee members. The information that was submitted, and there's 4 things to discuss. The first thing was the event center rentals, which we also have information on that, 2-page information concerning the banquet hall, and multi-purpose room, the community room, and T.G. Young Park, and then a breakdown of revenues and expenses. These are the new ones, I assume, that we've updated these from last year. We had talked about doing that. How did we come about these figures? Where did we look?
These are figures that we've had for what we charge for rentals. I gave them to you guys as a starting point so that you can start to discuss increases. And then I also gave you an income statement, which Mr. Harkay, you'll get emailed to you later, to kind of just look at some of our hard costs that go with running it, so you know where to go with the figures as you think about potentially increasing the rental cost.
So this sheet is what it currently is.
Yes,
Right.
and I don't think anything's changed. We haven't updated any pricing. So this is just all the facilities, including that facility, the community room, and the park.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mr. Smith.
I know that we were, excuse me, it was a brief discussion, I believe started by the mayor. I don't know if that was in concert with anybody else, of a discussion of wanting to increase the fees for the rec center, or only, correct me if I'm wrong, Mayor, only renting for next year to the residents, or having them have some sort of priority. If the mayor can elaborate on that, please.
The only thing I think we talked about in a COW meeting, or could have been a council meeting, this is just, I think, a suggestion from me, the mayor, and I think council should think about it along with the committee, is it would be nice to see the event center be rented just to residents at least for a year and see how that goes. And the reason why, I think as it has grown and people are getting, they want to rent it, we've been in situations where people call, and they call in advance, okay? It's not like you're calling the week before, because if anybody calls the week before, there's a chance anything's rented, even get reservations or get reservations in a restaurant. But people call well in advance, and then they find out it's already rented. But the sad part is, it's rented to a non-resident, okay? Now, in the beginning, that was important that we were renting to non-residents, because a lot of them were already involved in some of the activities up there. They were familiar with the event center and they were renting it. But now that people have used it or they've gone to an event there, more and more people want to rent it inside the village. My suggestion is to try it for a year, see how it works out. If not, if we continue the same way, if you're gonna go with just the residents, to me, I would keep the rate the same. That's just me, okay, because it is a service to the residents. But if gonna rent to non-residents, then I think there should be an increase to the non-residents. That's just something that, and that's what you're referring to, Mr. Spitzenagel, I kind of threw out there in one of the meetings.
Sally?
So, kind of what the mayor was talking about was one of the reasons why I asked for this to be put on the agenda. The event center rentals, I think we should consider, I think the committee needs to start thinking about it, and we need to come up with a deadline quick, like as of February 1st, if you want to wait, to give the new council members some time. I don't know that we have enough time right now to say as of January 1st, but I think our costs need to be at least covered for that, even with the residents, and I hate to say that, but the non-resident price, that's ridiculous. I mean, our residents are only getting a $100 discount. And I think we need to look into other halls that are rented out, and they're renting for like $2,000, plus cleaning costs and everything else like that on top of it. I know we can't make a profit with it. I would like to see it used, though, at least at a no cost. I mean, you can see here, just because of COVID and stuff, we're at $15,500 for cleaning alone.
Yeah.
I mean,
And that's an exceptional number for this year because we've also added disinfecting
Right.
to each of them.
Right, but we don't know how long that's going to go.
We're gonna actually end that. We're not obligated to do it, and so
Okay.
I've made the decision that we will stop. The mayor and I discussed it, and we've looked into it, and it's not required of us,
It's not required.
so we're gonna stop.
Okay, well, that's good, but,
That added a substantial amount of money to it.
right,
Yeah, there's
that
nothing
does.
we can do about
10
that.
grand at least.
Right, but on top of that, I mean, there's all the fees that, if you go to any other community and look at rental of their centers, event centers, or a rental hall and stuff, there's trash fees, and we've had issues with non-residents saying, so what, they had a $100 deposit, they weren't gonna clean up properly. So I really think what I want us to do is to start to look at this so that it's at least a no cost, a no loss to the village and stuff for the rentals. And if we are going to eventually rent out to non-residents, I think that those are the fees that need to be substantially higher for it definitively.
Mary, have any comment?
Oh, I agree. That's all. I just think that, we've been kind of giving it away, so to speak, so we could not be gouging and certainly increase for the non-residents, as you say, because I don't think, like they say, don't give pets away because people don't have a vested interest. You make someone pay for a pet, and they're more likely then to take care of it, just like any other item that you own. Well, if your deposit's larger and you're thinking about paying $250 or $500 and losing that amount, then, you're less likely to allow vandalism or just leaving a mess. So I'm all for that. This is our the first few years venture with this, so, You have a question?
No, just,
You gotta,
no, it's, when you go to most halls, they have a police officer on duty. And one of the things that, they give people a choice whether they should, if they're gonna have alcohol or they're not gonna have alcohol, they give them a choice whether to hire a police officer. I think it should be mandatory.
I think it is.
I think that.
Over a certain amount of people it is, with or without
Yeah,
alcohol.
but we've had problems, when they say no alcohol, and again, a certain amount of people. I think it should be, if they're not residents, and I think there should be an officer there.
it's not a bad idea, my opinion.
But the big decision is whether or not you're gonna rent it to residents or
Yeah,
not.
that's-
If you're not gonna rent it to non-residents, then you don't have to worry about the fee structure or those other things, then you would just have to work out what you wanna restructure for the residents.
What if, just throwing this out, throw it on the wall, see if it sticks kind of thing, giving priority to residents,
Oh, absolutely, they should.
obviously giving priority to residents, but within a certain time frame, let's say a month prior to any certain date, if a non-resident calls and says, I need a hall, and that hasn't been rented within, past that deadline, then the village would have the option of renting it out at kind of like the last minute to a non-resident, rather than letting it sit there. I don't know what you think about that.
That's not a bad idea, if there's an open spot.
Yeah, if there's an open spot,
Right.
obviously residents get their priority first, but then if it's, not rented within 30 days of an event, or not rented 30 days out, and a non-resident calls and says, hey, I need my hall fell through, I need something, and it's not rented with, in that time frame. I don't know, I'm just throwing it out.
I would think at that point, you're opening a can of worms to say, yes, that person can or that person can't. I think you're better off just staying residents only, at least to get through some of these bugs in order to try and break even. When you rent a hall somewhere, the linens usually are in that fee. So you're paying for, or you're bringing your own when you rent a hall, and
Right.
you want your own coordinating colors and everything. So if you're renting for like a large event in the evenings, there's also still the problem of not enough parking. Somehow you end up with too many cars up there, and they're on the lawn, and you've got a mess, and the noise is so loud on some Saturday nights that you have residents that are upset, which I did notice when I went around campaigning, talking to people, the noise control on Saturday nights. So if you're stuck with just residents only, I think they'd be a little more considerate, maybe with the noise, not getting it so loud. The parking situation, maybe following whatever the rules, for whatever the fire marshal and everybody has for that situation. But I don't think you can just jump and say, yes, a non-resident can pick November 20th because it's not taken by a resident. I think you're asking for trouble on that issue. But I think maybe go a year. I like that idea. Go a year and let's see, just residents only. Bridal showers and all that stuff, and baby showers in the afternoons. It's always seemed to work really well for everyone.
Well, if we're gonna rent it to residents only and keep it residents only, we're not gonna be, we're not gonna break even on the cost. There's no way we're going to.
I think,
So we have to,
Oh, I know.
come to that conclusion and acceptance. And that's fine with me, to do that. I was just trying to figure a way of, a last minute thing, something like that, to make a few extra bucks rather than have the place sit still. But that's just, throw it out there and see what happens.
Angela, do we know what percentage that it was rented, how much was?
Well, so there's a sheet somewhere, but, up until summer, early summer, maybe May, we were renting to non-residents, and those rentals to non-residents have literally just finally ended. I believe last week, maybe we even have one more. Resident rentals are picking up substantially though, I can tell you, from what I've heard. So residents are finally like becoming aware that it's there, whether it's a bigger event or not, but, you know, so in the past where the residents couldn't necessarily rent it and it would look like there were less residents renting because we had already booked out to non-residents, now that they've been able to get their preference, we do have some more residents renting. So I can ask Mary, I don't handle the rentals or have access to the calendar, but we can do like another brief update from, like, I think we just looked a couple months ago, but we'll look again, and, you know, and we can kind of get an update. I can say this, as someone who catered myself, my parents owned a party center and I worked for a private caterer. Our prices are a steal. So of course, non-residents were flooding the gates. I've seen all sides of it. I've seen the issues. I've seen it go smooth. I've seen the need for security because people do say I'm not having alcohol and then they have 10,000 more people plus alcohol. So I do agree with Brian. We may not break even or cover costs, but I think in that 1 year, that gives you time to determine where you need to be and see how many residents actually end up renting it within that year. And then if that's really not fruitful at all and it's not covering anything and maybe it's sitting too dormant, then we revisit. But costs would have to go up substantially for non-residents for this place because this is extremely reasonable to rent. With obviously, and we talked for a long time about security deposit going up because obviously for that type of security deposit too, if I leave trash all over, what do I care? Keep my $250. Like, so
Right,
yes, it's less respect out of some non-residents.
I check into some hotels and, for work, and they put $200
Hold
on my
on your-
credit
yeah,
card just for
absolutely.
one night's hotel, just in case I bust up the hotel room. So a $100 deposit for a whole hall is nothing. So I would agree with, for anybody to at least increasing the deposit fee, and then that people would, you know, think twice about, you know, losing some or all of their deposit.
Well, if I could say, again, I asked for this meeting just so we could touch on these things, and we've only got like 13 minutes left
Yeah, you put a lot on
before the
agenda.
finance meeting starts. But just to get it on the radar and to start looking at it and to start thinking about it, you know, and offer suggestions, and when we can circle back around and have more time to sit down and dig, because this is going to take a while, you know, to go through. But I just wanted you guys to be aware, like I said, because I tried renting a hall for my parents' 50th anniversary, and the cheapest one I think was $2,200 plus on top of that, you know, a caterer and everything else. I'm just going to go through the rest of these things really quick with what I wanted to say about it. The Parker program, there's a lot of residents that are asking about that being a 5-day program. And I think we need to look at the cost of that too. Again, not that I want to gouge the residents in any way, but the cost of our Parker program compared to some communities, what they charge for 1 week of a camp, and that's just a day camp, not a sleepaway camp. I mean, some communities are paying $500 for 1 week. So I think that's something that should be looked at also. Again, we're not going to hit, you know, break even with it, I don't think, but just something to consider. And with the Parker program also, more consideration for our residents. We had residents, I know I ran into several over the course of going door to door, that were upset that they couldn't get into the program. And just so you guys know, we have 255 kids, 19 to 1. 19 years old to 1. Okay, and there's really only 20 males that are 15 to 19, 75 females. So, taking about, you still have over 150 kids, you know, that are potentially eligible for that Parker program, you know, of our own, that are residents here now. Future programs,
That's me.
we had,
Like,
Gloria, you had a list that you put out. I will tell you, again, just to throw out there for now, I had a lot of residents that would be interested in a Meet Your Neighbor night, maybe like a section of the village, but anybody could come at the community center, you know, and stuff, kind of a potluck thing that they could do. Residents were interested in like a wine and cheese night, because we've got a lot of younger families that are in the village now. I don't know if anybody noticed going door to door, but there's certainly way more than I had realized. And hate to say it, but a lot of the residents said they didn't feel like that was anything for them to do because it was all senior stuff. It's a senior lunch, it's the 50-plus club. The trips are during the day when they work, so, you know, I think that's a part of the community that we have to look at also. And then I don't know if there's been any discussion about an assistant director in the Parker program or anything else like that.
Not yet.
But
Not yet.
Madam Chair,
Mhm.
just doing some simple math though, well, we can't count 2020. 2019, the rentals for the hall was 41,000, a little bit over 41,000. 2021 is through October, it's a little over 35,000. For the hall rental, $750 to rent it. I just counted times 2 for Friday and Saturday, times 52 weeks. That's $78,000. Now, so that tells me it's not rented half the time.
Or the multi-purpose rooms rented instead for only 100 hours.
Exactly.
Yep.
So, you know, it's sitting dormant half the time, so that's, you know, if we decide to rent to just non-residents, which I think is a good idea to see how it goes. Judging by these numbers, unless it catches on more and more, I don't think we're going to get the saturation every week or almost every week.
Mhm.
We may go up to half-time, or we may go up to, you know, I'd be surprised if we could rent the thing 2/3 of the time. So as far as covering costs, that's, you know, my concern, if that's what we want to do. And you know, when we bought this thing, I stated right away I wanted to see financials and all that stuff to see what it was actually costing us. But I know this is not a profit center for us. No recreation facility is. However, and I wish Natalie were here, I want this place used more. It's sitting dark, vacant, a lot of the time. Whether it's after-school programming for kids, you just said we've got a lot of kids here, after-school programming, you know, whatever it is, and that's what we pay this recreation director for, or any recreation director. So I want that person to come up and give us these programs, or these ideas for these programs, and the specifics for them. That's what the job is. So that's my goal throughout next year, to get this thing used more on weekdays, used more after schools, and it's a facility where it's being almost continually used.
Madam Chair, there was one other activity that I talked to families about, and families really liked the idea of it. Maybe 6 times a year, or maybe even once a month, like every other month or once a month, having a designated movie night for the kids.
So you gotta get into licensing. If you're gonna do that, you gotta pay for licensing for the movies. Having come from the PTA world, that I know. They will seek you out if you don't. There's
But a
people
lot
hired
of
to do
people,
that.
a lot of people were really interested in, if it was like $5 a kid, they could drop their kid off from 6 to 10. Parents knew a month ahead of time, they had a night out, they knew where their kids were, they were safe. I mean, there was a couple of families that said, I've got 4 kids, I would happily pay $20 for 4 hours.
So then we're talking about staffing though, and that's a whole nother animal, because then we've got part-time staff down there. That would be overtime for them if we're using the regular staff, or we'd have to see if our parkers would be available throughout the year, you know, our counselors.
That's what a rec center is. It's not there to be sitting there in the dark. So what, if we have to hire more people, if we have to make programming that costs, and see, I mean, we're running a business here. You know,
So
that's exactly
the
what
hard
we're
thing
doing.
is, and I
We're
wanna
running a
just
business.
caution again, and I will double check this, because I'm still waiting on the county for things. Utilization, not a problem. Profiting from what we're doing is where we have to be careful.
Yeah, we're never gonna profit.
So if we run an after-school program, well, no, I'm saying any kind of profit. So if I'm running an after-school program, I'm not just talking about covering our costs in general with everything. I'm saying If I run an after-school program now and I'm charging, let's say it's Bedford City Schools, if I'm charging Bedford to use our facility, that goes against us on that property tax exemption. So everything's kind of a fine line down there in terms of literally just covering our costs. And I know nobody's saying about making more money, but every piece we add on, like even yoga, something as simple as yoga, that counts as a non-exclusive to the community event, meaning it's a community center, it's community use, that's what keeps it tax exempt. So schools would certainly fall into that, but not if we start charging for things. So that's where we have to kind of tread lightly, and I'm gonna get some more clear, definitive kind of guidelines from the county on that.
Right.
But as I had to
I
prepare
think we
things on
do,
that tax
because
exempt.
I don't know any other community that they have a yoga program or they have any other, sword fighting or whatever program it happens to be, they charge a fee.
They
for the
do, but they're
program.
also for profit. So like Southern Hills Rec Center is paying property tax on their building. They're not, you know what I'm saying, like,
Yeah, I understand, and I don't know the law as well as you do,
well, and I gotta get more
defer to you,
clarification too from the
But
county.
just my general knowledge is, just because you're nonprofit doesn't mean you can't.
But being government, they clearly said to
Yeah,
me,
well, let's
you
get
have to,
definitive.
it has to be heavily this community, this municipality, the village employees, heavy on the use for people here.
Well, sure, we can do that.
Right,
I don't
so-
have any
so I'll get
problem doing
clarification
that.
on that,
Yeah,
too.
without getting into- I think what we can all agree on, which we've all have agreed on, that we could have more programs down there and use that
Oh, absolutely.
facility more, and it doesn't even have to be for a profit. It could be just like we're talking, maybe
Oh,
like,
exactly.
events for things that are similar, like a movie, whether a movie night or something. When you get into after-school care or some of those are different because of the staffing and stuff, but we do know we can use it for other events. So I think we're all on to something, good, just, and then
Well-
pick and choose what you want to do. I mean, some of them come with a cost and some of them come with very little over it.
Well, and I would, Mr. Mayor and Madam Chair, I would defer to, I would do any homework that is needed to do on this. But we have a recreation director, and
Oh, I
that's
agree.
their job. So they need to crunch some numbers, get the information, and present us with some information.
Right.
That, in my opinion, is what we're paying her to do, not only just going up to Sam's and buying the cups for the events, you know what I mean? That's the recreation director's job. So, I would task her, and again, I will help if she needs help or whatever, wants me to do something, or the committee wants me to do something, I'll get any information as far as prices, any other banquet halls, things like that, or any other type of fees for programming, whatever she wants to do. I'm fine with that. But that's the type of information we need, obviously.
I agree, I don't think we have enough information now to do anything.
Well, I don't think that was the reason to have the meeting. I think it was like Jennifer said, to get the ball rolling.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
I
a
think,
half hour, you're not gonna make, no
No,
different than our finance and everything, but it's to get the ball rolling. So it's a good
well,
start.
I think we have a lot of questions here, and Natalie, finding out about the fees, not over here in Avon Lake, around here and that. I don't believe that, I think if our fee is so low for a resident, then I think they should be happy with that. We should up the fees for the non-residents, up the fees for that security deposit, definitely. I don't care if they're residents or non-residents, if they're gonna make a mess down there. But find out what they are around here. We have one right next door. You know what I mean? If they're gonna be less than we are, or whatever, as far as, parking and, noise, I think we have rules. Is it only supposed to be till 10 o'clock that they can, they can be at the
I
facility?
think it's later than that.
Yeah,
later.
they can go.
But, have that in there, and the police officer, I think, is an excellent idea, because it doesn't have to be alcohol involved. People shoot people just to shoot people. And then when you get a group of people down there, you don't know what they're gonna do, so I think they should always have a police officer there. But I think, we'd be remiss in not just waiting to see if residents are gonna rent this for a whole year. I think if the price is that low, I think we should wait and see what they're doing. We got a 38% senior population here. I don't know how many of their kids are gonna get married, might be their grandchildren, but You know, but I think we need Natalie's input on what she's thinking. We need Mary's to get some more about who's been running it, and you know, are they weddings? Are they birthdays? Are they using the smaller rooms for some of those things?
Yeah, we've got that in our list.
Yeah, but I think we need some more information, and if our law director was here, he could maybe clarify some of the things according to the law, that what we can and cannot do.
I'm
I
not
am-
sure how tight and familiar John is with the county
Yeah,
stuff,
well,
but I'll
like at the
find
rec
out
center in
for you.
Macedonia, that one may be for profit. So that's,
Yeah.
you know, that's not gonna, then they're gonna pay tax. Do we wanna do, you know, we don't want it for profit. We wanna keep it, you know, not for profit, but, I think we need to check around here and see what these halls and different things, what people are paying, and, have another meeting concerning that. COVID has, we can't even kind of imagine the effect that it's had on people, that we could get 5,000 people wanting to run it, you know, next year, when all this hopefully is going to be over. I don't know. But it's a beautiful facility, and it should be used more. And there could be many ideas that it doesn't cost anything just to use it. But we're probably going to have to add staff to recreation to accomplish some of that too. So you save money someplace and spend it another. So. But I think we need to gather some more information from Natalie, and if we're going to hire an assistant recreation director too, see what that shakes down to. Any more comments? Over time.
Yeah.
Mr. Harkey?
Denny Harkeye, 7120 Hickory. I think it's really important that you're talking about this event center situation. I would never question the value of recreation. Anybody that knows me knows that I like to enjoy myself, and I like to see others do the same. But I think that with the village finances that are in the position that they are at the present time, it's questionable as to how quickly we'll be able to generate any more revenue from anything. We all know that. In the meantime, if the residents are not using this building and they're not enjoying this building, I think the village, all things considered, should consider disposing of it, in my opinion. Now, you can do whatever you want, and I know you will, but that thing was acquired with no input or very little input in the beginning from any residents. I think that somehow we should find out what the residents really think of this. We're here, under the circumstances, to serve the residents' needs for recreation. And if people aren't enjoying that thing, they're not using it. First of all, from what I know about what goes on over there, I have yet to see anything that couldn't take place right over here in a place that's already paid for, without all the consumption, the concerns, the obligations that go along with running a center like that. It's a complicated business that requires somebody that really knows what they're doing. And from what I've seen, I honestly question that anyone that is running it really knows what they're doing. I'm not trying to be critical, I'm just making an observation. I think the whole thing should get some serious consideration as to whether it should be kept or not. You guys are going to decide what you got to do, and that's up to you. But we all know that it's not there for a profit, but I think we should be very, very cautious about what the losses are. I know enough about the financial reports to see that it's been operating at a loss, and the village should be questioning whether it makes sense to continue doing something that's losing money. We have a police department that costs us money. The residents see the value in that because we get safety, we get security, we get protection from our police department. I would never question the value of our police department. We have a service department that does a lot of things for the residents. They take care of the snow plows, they pick up the leaves and branches. No one would ever question the value of the service department. It costs us money. But I think if the residents really knew what was going on over there with the village finances, with all the stuff that happens after hours, with the drinking, the noise, and everything else, I think we should really seriously consider whether we keep it or not. Again, you're going to make your own decisions. I know there's people that don't agree with me, but that's what I think.
Any comments
I know Mr. Harkai has made those comments in the past, and other people have too. And with that, and being the mayor, I thought, and I did share this with council and other people at a meeting, I said, okay, let's say we were to sell it, okay? What we do know is it's in the country home district. Correct, Mr. Gowan? So we can't sell it to industry, we can't sell it to another business, it's either a church. I think the church or houses, okay? So we're not missing any revenue by holding on to it, okay, is what just to make that point, because some people say, well, maybe a nice business could be there or something. Well, it's not zoned in. I don't think there's anybody who wants to change our country home district, especially the people that live next door to it or in that vicinity, okay? And then I thought, you know, we'd get the one-time fee of the money. We'd get the whatever we sell it for. We would receive that. We'd lose control of that area. What if we ever decided to do something with it? And then I thought about the comment of going back to the room across from this facility. And I said, we couldn't do it. And especially in a COVID type situation. We wouldn't have the space. We just wouldn't have the space. We have outgrown that facility, okay? If we want to be competitive with our surrounding communities that offer some type of facility, that's the answer. We sell that facility, we'll never be able to build another facility like it. We won't be able to afford it. I do agree that it's underutilized. So if anything we're doing wrong, we're not using it enough, or we don't have programs there. So that's something we could make better. I think selling that would probably, I mean, really, it's up to council to think about it. I wouldn't even think about it. I just don't, we can't go next door. We just don't have the space. We couldn't have the same Christmas party that a lot of people have been to. We couldn't have
Halloween party was big.
all the parties. Half the repasses we couldn't have in this facility. And it'd be going backwards. It's kind of what happened with filming the meetings. If we stop video meeting, people say, oh my God, I enjoyed that for a year and a half. What are you doing? You're going backwards. You're going backwards in time. And we'd be in the same situation, at least from what I'm hearing from the majority of the residents that I come in contact with. They're in favor of that facility. But it's not bad to do our due diligence.
Madam Chair, I'm going to respectfully ask for adjournment of the meeting so we can move on to finance, unless there was anything else that you guys wanted.
The only other thing, Madam Chair, and I have real quick, is since it was brought up and that it's costing us money, in 2018, it cost us $891. That was revenues minus expenses, correct?
Yes.
2019, it did cost us $10,512. 2020, because of COVID, nobody rented it. It cost us $21,384, and we haven't gotten this year's yet. 2020, we can subtract 8,000, if I'm reading this correct, for the police training.
Correct.
And 2021, we can subtract 11,000 from this year. So 2020, 21 minus 8 is $13,000 what it costs us.
Now, those are operating costs, so that's not including the payments on the note. The note payments are
Correct.
below that, but yes,
Correct.
operating costs. And
So,
I apologize,
yeah,
I didn't
so
give you a
for-
total for this year.
For, you know, it is a true statement to say that it does cost us money. But you gotta throw out exactly how much money it's costing us. And my personal opinion for a recreation facility, as long as it's utilized, $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 a year, and it hasn't cost us the $30,000 a year yet, as far as my math goes, we looked at building a building. Very small building was $2.5 million.
Yeah.
Remember? And that was
15 years ago.
exactly. So I'm not willing to entertain the thought of selling it at this point. Not that I'm married to that building. If it becomes a hardship to us, I don't have any problem with that. Madam Chair, I would make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Thank you all for your input.
So moved.
Okay, I just need to end the stream and start the next one.